Hey guys, I'm Shawn of webpianoteacher.com. How are you today? Well, we're going to learn a song by Elton John today called My Father's Gun, but it's a demo version. Now, a lot of you know that with the demo versions of Elton John, he's just singing and playing the piano. It's a demo, and you get a lot of good piano stuff that you don't get in the album version. So this is really cool, really good for you guys who just like to play and sing. So let's take a listen to it. All right. This day on, I own my father's gun. Dug his shallow grave beneath the sun. Laid his broken body down in the southern land. Wouldn't do to bury him. I may not have got the lyrics there all correct, but close enough. Well, if you're not familiar with my stuff, I've been doing this for the last 20 years online. I teach a different way. So I write letters on this whiteboard here. It used to be an actual whiteboard. And it's just an easier way to learn for a lot of people where you don't have to struggle through trying to read traditional music notation, which is okay. But a lot of people find that this really clicks for them. So if you want to try it out, my site has over 10,000 lessons and counting. I got like 80-something Elton John songs at this point. So a lot of fun. Try it out. You can try it out for a $1 trial we're running right now. So check that out, webpianoteacher.com. All right, here we go. This is a hired request from one of my very dear friends who's been doing hired requests for me for probably 20 years. So, Rick, thanks a lot for this one. A lot of people are going to enjoy it, and I appreciate you and all you've done for me over the years. All right, so here's the intro, and it's just, one measure. It doesn't sound like he really counts it either. He just, but I'm going to go 3, 4, just so I can count something. You have F, G, B natural, E flat, okay? And 1, 2, 4, 5 is a good fingering for that. Some of you will just want to use 3 because you just want to use that 3 finger. That's okay. All right, but you have to kind of claw, your way up in here because you got to get between the black keys. Got to slide up in there a little bit. G on the bass, okay? So you play that. Then we play this one. We're going to just play it really short, okay? So it's a staccato. So I put a staccato there. I'll use a lot of the similar notations of traditional music notation, just kind of for people that are used to reading music, you can jump right in as well. G, B, D, and then the G is still on the left hand. So da. All right, so really a real cutoff there. And then we're still in the intro. Well, I called this the intro, but it's actually this long. You just have a little, a gearing up for it. And then, so we have a C minor chord here. So the notes in it are going to be C, E flat, G, C octave on the left hand, and G, C, E flat on the left hand. It doesn't matter that the C is not on the bottom in the right hand. It's still a C chord as long as you have the recipe or ingredients of C, E flat, G. Okay? So play that for one count. 1, 2. I'm counting this in a slow 2. 1, 2, 1, a 2. Kind of a swing, slow 2. All right, so E flat on the top. You have your C minor. Make sure you change your pedal as you change the bass note. If you're on a real piano, you got to clear it all the way. The foot's got to come all the way up, or it doesn't clear everything, and it blurs. The chords blur. So this is an E flat 7 chord. Even though there's a B flat on the bottom, the ingredients of the chord tell us what it is. B flat left hand, right hand G, D flat, E flat, G on the top. So I call this clustering, where you just kind of cluster together those notes so you can see the pattern that's going on. Instead of looking at 4 different things, I look at one thing and just play a pattern. Bop, 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 bop. Okay? So if you've learned that much of it, okay, you go back. Always work on short sections with really good repetitions. That's how you learn. on. And this is something Elton does a whole lot that I've had to get used to. And he'll anticipate the bass note. Da-da. Da-da. He does it here too. And throughout. So the next chord that's coming, he'll just, right before it, give a little bop. Okay? So that's where that A flat's coming from. But realize that it's part of the whole A flat chord we're going to do. E flat, A flat, C, E flat. 1, 2, 4, 5. Okay? As your hand goes toward the middle of your body, your right hand, it gets increasingly important to use that fourth finger because of the position you're in. You can use 3 though if you just have to. If you want to lean to the side, Okay? So I stay there. Ba, 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 ba. There's another staccato or accent mark. So da 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 da. So right there. Ba ba. Okay? Then I cut off. So now I go back and do what I've done thus far. And he really smacks that. All right, so we have that same device here. Da-da. Okay? Part of the teaching I like to do is showing you patterns. Music is full of patterns. When you learn to see them, it's kind of like a roadmap, and you understand what you're doing instead of just reading, falling blocks and all that stuff. G, B flat, E flat, G. I'm going to use a 4 again, but again, you're welcome to use the 3 finger. And you probably can see that that's just a rolled version of the blocks chord. Bop, 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 bop. You can see how I'm rotating my wrist there. I don't get stuck in one position and go, and then I'm tight, and I feel like a jackhammer. Just move. That hand's got to rotate. All right, so all that's E flat. Ba, ba. Okay, when you finish that roll, you should be in this position. Da, 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 da. Okay, now we go back and apply. Now we're going to do what's called a suspended chord. A suspended chord has, like it says, its name, a suspension. So the chord is E flat, B flat, E flat, G, but you suspend, and it's usually the fourth, the middle of the note. You're going 3 to 4. That's why they call it a 4-3 suspension. Okay, so A flat is the third of the chord. If I just lay it out like this, E flat, G, B flat, and I'm suspending that third to a fourth. That's why they call it that. And most suspensions are 4-3 suspensions. They give us a nice little da. Elton uses that a lot. That's your suspension. And then he resolves it going back to the E flat chord. G, B flat, E flat, G. So we'll start right here. Ba-ba. And feel free to play more left hand in here because Elton does sometimes. Okay, I didn't hear anything of note that he played right there, but the style that he plays in is what you want to get. All right, so use this as a road map. I try to be real exact when I'm tabbing out here, but if I were doing this for a gig, which I do, I would play more left hand. See, I might even roll that. So feel free to do those things. It's a lot more fun to play the piano when you have that freedom. Okay, you're not copying a computer program. You're learning the art, the skill of improvisation. B flat, and then right hand, E flat, A flat, C. That's called a 5/4. You ever heard that? You've heard that. Carole King did it all the time. In fact, so much it was called the Carole King chord. But, people did it. Already, Billy Joel uses it a lot. Elton, Carole King, all your great pianos. But it's a nice sound. Instead of just going to use a 4/5. So what it is, it's a 5 in the bass. In the key of E flat. 5 is the B flat is the 5 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A flat chord is the 4 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that's where it gets its name. 5/4. Okay. So ba-ba. And then we're from This day on. Got to get your Elton John vibe. This day on. Oh, my father's gone. And then we're going to learn the rest of it. But at this point, some of you need to take a little break, a little breather. Sometimes, breaks are great. Sometimes the breaks are 30 seconds. Sometimes they're 5 minutes. Sometimes you need, an hour or two. But little breaks help to kind of reset the brain, and then you can start to learn again, because we get to a point where, we can keep forcing it, but nothing's sticking, okay? So that's a great routine to get into. You got to have a system or to do it, or you're just going to be floating around and not really learning anything. Now, there's the intro, okay, which we'll play again at the end. This day on. So there's where the verse is, where it starts. You can go ahead and do the bite card. G, B flat, E flat, left hand on E flat. This day on. And then you add the G. This day on. Okay, now I'm just going to kind of keep going here and use my Bluetooth foot switch to scroll. Still getting used to it. This day on. On my father's gone. That's a good little chunk, okay? Where we feel those natural breaks are a good place to say, I'm going to work on this part and not the rest for a while. Now, A flat, E flat on the left. And then the right hand is G, A flat, C, E flat. That's an A flat major 7. Hear that? Kind of sounds jazzy. Okay? A major 7 chord or a minor 7 like this one sound jazzy. So you could do those. That's just full of major 7 and 2 minor 7s. So A flat, E flat, G, A flat, C, E flat. So that dissonance, we want that because that makes it sound, lush. On my father's gun. And this is just straight 2 count. On my father's gun. When you get to gun here, G, B flat, D, F, left hand G, F. It's a G minor 7. Okay? So I'm going to just memorize what I played up there. This day on my father's gone. Then, so that's kind of bum ba da dum. What you're hearing is the G, G, F, G in the middle that he does with his left and right hand. So G, B flat, E flat, F, left hand G, F. All right, so that is a G minor 7, and it's suspended. The D is suspended to E flat. So you have that. Okay, so if you know G minor 7, all you do to get to this chord is you just suspend, okay, the D to E flat. Then I'm going to play it again, and then F left hand on the thumb, and then another G. Then move on. So at the top, verse, this day on my father's gone. Okay. Buried beneath the sun. Or it's dug a shallow grave beneath the sun. And of course, this is tumbleweed, the Old West, so the shallow grave and all that. G, C, D, E flat, left hand on a C. That's a C. Some people call it add 9, but when it's mixed this close, we call it a C minor 2. So there's a C minor. You throw that D in there, you add a nice dissonance. You've heard that? Dug a shallow grave beneath. So as we move that left hand down to B flat, we're not really changing the chord. It's still C minor, C, E flat, G, C, 1, 2, 3, 5. All right, we just changed the bass note on the bottom. It sounds like 2 different chords, doesn't it? Dug a shallow grave beneath the sun. So that still is a C minor. We just have changed the bass note. The sun. And on sun we have, you can count on Elton for lots of cool chords. An A flat major 7, which is what we had over here, but he voices it different. So you have this way, or this. Same chord. A flat, C, E flat, G, left hand, A flat. Then we up, 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 up. So this is A flat, C, E flat, F, left hand, A flat. That's an F minor 7. Then he rolls from bottom to top, da, da, da. And then he does short on that right hand chord. We're going to go to a B flat chord in the next part. Okay? So starting at the verse. From this day on, I own my Father's gun. Dug a shallow grave beneath the sun. That B flat. Got a scratchy throat this today. All right, we're gonna move that up just a bit. But that B flat up there was leading to the next chord, F, B flat, D, F. 1, 2, 4, 5. Laid his broken body down in the southern land, beneath the southern land or something like that. So F, B flat, D, F, left hand B flat. Laid his broken body down. Now this kind of looks like a G7, G, B, D, F, but there's no G. You might say, oh, there's a G, but that G goes with the C. So instead of calling it a G7, I'm going to call it a B diminished, BDF, which the only difference between a B diminished and a G7 is the added G. Now it's a G7, now it's a B diminished. F, B, D, F. It has more of a bite to it than putting a G. See? F, B, D, F, left hand on a B. And that B is rolled up. Okay? So, laid his broken body down beneath the southern land. So G, C. Now, we were doing the octave, da-da. Well, a lot of times he'll do, in fact, mostly he'll do da-da. That right there, we'll do the middle note that your two finger kind of naturally falls on when you're doing an octave. That's a G, ba-ba. G, C, E flat. Right hand C minor, G, C, E flat. Da-da-da-da-da. That's an E flat 7, but it sounds cooler instead of going to go. Just to move the bass line down. Da, 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 da. So G, B flat, D flat, F. Going to that one, it's right next to it. Beneath the southern land. Now we're on A flat, right hand A flat, C, E flat. And then da da da. Wouldn't do to bury him. Now a D flat chord, which is not normally in the key of an E flat that we're in. But Elton is known to just do whatever go all over the place with chords. F, A flat, D flat, F. I'm using a 4. You might use a 3. So D flat chord. Wouldn't do to bury him. Then we go to C minor, which is not a normal thing to go to, but he makes it work. Da, 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 da. So G, C, E flat, like we had over here. Da, da, da. So since you got to play an F there, put your fourth finger on the E flat. Okay. So can I play another C, G there? Yeah, you can. I don't hear him do that in this particular place. All right, so after you've worked on all of it, and you've done all your sections all the way through, then you can start to make the whole page one of your sections. Does that make sense? So work on the little parts, chain them together, working on small sections, whatever that is for you, and then you chain them together. Now you have a whole page that can serve as one section. And then you start working on the second page the second way. But the cool thing is, when we get to the second page, you're going to have a lot of the same chords, and it's going to go quicker. Okay, once every song has that kind of kernel of a motive or something about it that once you get that down, it makes the whole rest of the song easier. Okay, so let's try All the Way. And I know it's pretty small there, but just so I can see it in one sitting and not have to scroll. This day on, second line, on my father's gun, buried him beneath another sun, laid his broken body down, neath the southern land, wouldn't do to bury him. And then we move on. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you on the website. We'll finish the whole thing as well as tons of other Elton songs. Have a great day.